Vince, thanks so much for taking some time to be with us today. Nearly 2 decades of work kind of in the nutrition, functional nutrition space. We're super excited to pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, for sure.
So what made you get into all of this and stick with it for as many years as you have? Because I'm sure it's transformed throughout the years as well.
When I first got into the functional health, or let's just when I use the word functional, we're talking root cause, which really, believe it or not, even a personal trainer's root cause, whether people want, that's the funny thing is when I talk to a lot of, because I travel and I speak across the country to different types of practitioners that use different modalities to help people. Whether you're a chiropractor and use your hands, whether you're a personal trainer and you use exercise, whether you're a nurse practitioner and maybe use hormones, whatever your thing is, I've been speaking around the country on this for a very, very long time. And I started in the medical field as a functional health, what they call is an advisor and a consultant for medical firms, networks, and how to build cash pay, weight loss, other functional healing or holistic health programs into practices, right? And one of the things that stuck out to me very, very early on is that whether you know what the word functional means or not, most people are doing some type of root cause therapy, and fitness is one of the first ones. That's where I kind of got my start, 18 years ago, and for me, what happened was I had built a relatively outside of Chicago. I was a very sick boy, so 7 years old, had a rare. Let's get the highlights, high notes here.
Yeah,
very sick boy, travels the United States to try to find the root of his physical illness and his mental illness. It's 7 years old, which is rare for a boy at that age. Come to find out later, it was a combination of chemical exposure and trauma in the home. I did not have my parents are amazing people. They just couldn't make it work at the time. Let's say that. I love them both today, individually, but going through the right nutrition, going to the right holistic health practices and the right kind of therapy, emotional therapy unlocked it for me. So I had already had exposure to multiple modalities working at once. What I didn't know at a younger age, was that all of them together at once was the right answer. And that's kind of where my understanding of how to solve problems comes, because I'm in school for this finance degree in college. And I realized that it was during the financial fallout, who's going to give me money? Oh, and by the way, I don't want to do any of this. I was doing this because I thought that's what other people wanted me to do. And I always had this natural gift for coaching. I always think that your gift will make room for you. It's kind of your gift is the thing that you can do with the littlest amount of effort that gets the maximum amount of outcome. It may not be the thing you're passionate about. Like I was passionate about basketball. I was passionate about bodybuilding, which I was at the time early on, like a competing on national stages. But coaching is the thing that came the most natural, that got the greatest impact. And so when I leaned into that, it started to grow rapidly outside of Chicago. But what I realized very, very quickly is that people were coming to me with problems, especially during the personal training boom. This is, again, 18 years ago, right? So people were coming to personal trainers for everything. And so instead of people just saying, hey, I want to lose weight for the summer, it was like, I'm depressed, I'm bloated, I'm distended, I can't lose weight very well. I started seeing these things very early on in my career. And I've learned that while my title at the time may have been personal trainer, really what I am and any consultant is a trusted guide. You've come to me to solve a problem. And while maybe I personally do not have the tools, what I think my job should be is to coordinate you with the right people and the right process to actually liberate you from the thing that is holding you back, right? Instead of just applying the same treatment to every person that comes in the door. Like if you go to a chiropractor, guess what? Every answer is going to include adjustment. You go to a personal trainer, every answer is going to include workouts. And it's not that those things aren't in and of themselves great tools, but typically when you're trying to solve a complex system, if anyone who's listening to this has had a problem for more than 6 months, your issue doesn't just live in one system. It's usually multiple systems of the 11 systems of the body. And that's where root cause medicine comes in. That's what functional technically means, where you would look at what systems are off in the body. And then let's work on each one of those systems in a coordinated deductive process to create a real long lasting outcome. Now, it's probably hard for people to grasp what I'm suggesting. But the idea is I started as a trainer. I ended up incorporating in a hormone doctor. I incorporated into nutrition, supplementation. I even coordinated in, again, whether it was soft tissue or chiropractic or whatever. And it grew very large. And then I got poached by a global medical health company called Metagenics. You may be familiar with the supplement Metagenics, right? Metagenics is actually, though, kind of works like a pharmaceutical company where they have a research facility, Gig Harbor, Washington. They're testing different types of health programs, products, ingredients, things like that. And then whatever they discover, they make products from, and then they hire doctors and they train them, and then they send them out to train other people with seminars and things like that. And in many ways, that's how a pharmaceutical company works. And what powers them is the supplement sales, right? Mm-hmm. And so they have reps all across the country, and they poached me, and I went off to train in out in San Clemente, California, for many, many months. And I got to train under a guy called Dr. Jeffrey Bland, which is the founder of the IFM and is also basically considered the godfather of functional medicine. I had no idea at the time. I'm still heavy in my meathead phase. I'm probably, if you can imagine, a guy that's probably sitting around 230, blonde tip hair, piercings, tan to the hilt. You know what I mean? I'm pretty tan now because of the Florida sun, but I'm walking in thinking primarily high protein dieting, beat you into the ground 6 days a week with training, reduce your calories. Oh, but I was still into supplements. I was still into some of these other things. And they show me this whole other world of science, research, programmings that I never knew existed, never seen it, never saw research, never heard anybody doing it. I thought I was on the forefront because I was offering things like fish oil and vitamin D, which, by the way, 18 years ago was like crazy talk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And now today it's like, oh, you don't take vitamin D.
Most common.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything that what I figured out in the end to try to give something that people can understand, all I did was the deductive process, if everyone's ever tried to build muscle, where they go, okay, I've got to get this many calories. I have to get this much protein. I need to work out this many days a week. I might throw in so much cardio. And then I have someone who's a coach that watches my biofeedback daily and then lets me know what to do next and makes adjustments. That, we'll call it bodybuilding process, right? Because I was a bodybuilding coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you apply the process to solving something like diabetes or even depression and anxiety, right? And then you add functional medicine research, like here's things for your hormones. Here's what we're going to do for stress. Here's what we're going to do for your digestion. Here's what we're going to do for your endocrine system, your thyroid. Now, all of a sudden, in one process, I'm working all kinds of systems. And then that's how you create insane outcomes, which is why I'm going to podcasts, writing books, doing everything I can to tell people that the real method of solving things could be done through the framework of a health coach or online dietitian or practitioner who's willing to work a functional root cause process with people. And that we've proven creates some of the greatest success, statistical success outcomes, or the greatest, what we'll call consistency to outcome, almost in any modality in the world. And that's what I was able, and I got tired of trying to teach doctors this. I did it for years, right? I was in that world for over 6 years, and I said, I'm done doing this. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. And so I don't need anyone's permission, and I don't even need a license to do this. I did get certified as a health coach, and I had my certifications as a personal trainer. So I quit and I opened up a practice in the back of a chiropractic office. I didn't even have enough money I had to borrow, was sharing an office with someone.
I mean, that's how it usually starts.
Yeah. Waynesville, Ohio, which if you know where that's at, I feel sorry for you. And you shouldn't know where that's at. And then it turned into the largest one-on-one functional health coaching company in the United States. And then after that, I opened up businesses wherever I found problems. So for example, my women that are on here will know, if you've ever tried to work nutrition and then go see a hormone specialist, maybe you go to an endocrinologist and then you have an OB and then you've got your general practitioner and then you're kind of stuck with these health issues that nobody really knows how to fully solve, but everybody's got their ideas. And then maybe you go see a nutritionist or you get conflicting information about what you should be doing with your body. If you get on Instagram or you get on YouTube or you Google your symptoms at 2 a.m. in the morning, you're going to find out a whole lot of information that just gives you analysis paralysis, right? You're not quite sure what to do. And it's simply because you're going to doctors for different systems. The OB, you can do hormones and reproductive. You go to the thyroid specialist, the endocrinologist. You go to the GP, which is kind of general and is looking at everything. And then maybe you go to a personal trainer who's focusing on the musculoskeletal system, right? But none of them are working together.
Yeah.
Right.
So everyone just falls through the cracks because systems medicine doesn't have a net because it doesn't look at the body as a whole, which is why we have more doctors, more research, more pills, bigger medicine than ever. And people are getting sick at an all-time rate in almost every category you can possibly think of, particularly lifestyle disease issues.
Yeah.
And it's simply the way that we try to solve problems does not work. And your listeners will know that if you've struggled for anything and went to a doctor for a result and are still trying to figure out why you can't solve the problem. And it's simply because how you're trying to solve problems does not work from a Western medicine standpoint. You need a root cause deductive approach, working with someone who can work all the systems together and then refer you out to someone who's synergistic if they maybe don't have all the tools in their toolbook at the time, right? And so that's what we did. And so now I've got my own endocrinology clinics, online hormone clinics that will work with anybody in the country synergistically with the programs. We have coaching centers, virtual coaching centers. We've got the university where we teach these methods now. We have the apps and the supplements, and we've launched all of that. So we have our own very first, what we'll call functional health online network that works with people globally. And that's called Vital Enterprises. And that can be hard. Like sometimes it's good to tell the story so people can understand.
Yeah.
What do you do and how do you do it? Right. Because it's hard for people to understand when only 12.5% of people have ever even heard of functional medicine or a health coach or, even like an online nutritionist.
Right.
Well, I kind of think that we can wrap things up there because I just think this is so cool because you spoke purely to one of my biggest soapboxes, which is the specialization in medicine that we're seeing at every level and every type of practitioner, even going through PT school. The first question people would ask me is like, what are you going to specialize in? And the first thing that I was noticing in the clinic is that I don't need to become more specialized. I need to understand better how to work with someone on behavior change, how to better reach them emotionally, because the biggest changes that I saw in people's pain was when I listened to their story, was when I helped them problem solve and, puzzle together the stresses in their life and how they can sleep better, do some of the general things in life a little bit better. And then their back pain got better. And it had nothing to do with the exercises I was giving them. And I was the weirdo, you know? And I just noticed that the route of specialization was contributing to exactly what you said, more medical dollars spent per capita and some of the worst Western medicine health outcomes in the world, by country.
I love my PTs, by the way. They're some of my favorite people at our university that learn functional tools. I'm actually going through I've had a bad ski injury, and, PT is one of those worlds where there's such a diversity of routes that you can go, right? I mean, there's so many methods. There's so much that you can get into, and an individual can ask themselves a couple questions. One is like, I just need to know more information, right? So it's like, I need to learn more methods of doing just the one thing, right?
Yeah.
Of how I manipulate soft tissue or how I set up firing sequences or how do I get alignment back into play. And they can get so far down the rabbit hole that it turns into something called expert's curse. There's an old story about Albert Einstein. He gets off stage from giving a speech on physics. He gets off stage and a little boy runs in front of him and his shoes are untied. And he asks Einstein to tie his shoe for him. And Einstein tried to explain to him how to tie his shoe. And he got so frustrated that he just stormed off cursing, right? It was so the reason I share that is that the more specialized you get in one thing, your paradigm, which is the thing where you decide what you're going to listen to and what you don't, gets so small that you actually become unrelatable to most people's issues. For example, if you want specialization in a certain area, children's heart surgeon, right? Okay. Children's heart surgeon, your paradigm should be pretty small. You need to learn how to work with a very tiny heart, and that's all you do.
Yeah.
But then for everything else, you're not very useful. So when you get over specialized, then you become less useful to majority of the world and its problems, which is okay in certain areas. But the problem is because we're so specialized and because we don't work together like Cleveland Clinic, we're actually less useful to the average American in the things that they are struggling with. And so everyone falls through the cracks. And that's what we're seeing very obviously in public health today. And so I fully identify. But then the PTs that learn like, ooh, if I coordinate between nutrition, emotion, and then of course, joint stabilization into mobility, into strength, and they find a process, they can become unlimited. And that's what we did. I developed a process called the 4F system that we've trademarked, that I teach PTs, chiros, NDs, MDs, or just someone who wants to help somebody who was a weekend warrior at the gym. We convert them into online or in-person functional health practitioners at our university every single day now because our method's reproducible. And that's my whole passion, is getting people into the fight and getting them out of dead-end jobs that are really killing their vitality and stealing their zest for life. You know?
Well, and I think you brought up something really early on within, your story about how we automatically saw how connected the brain gut is when all your issues start to translate back to the trauma and the stress that you're having. And we don't talk about that enough, right? If you go to see your GI doctor, you're only going to focus on what's happening within your GI. You're not focusing on what's happening in the full picture. Yeah. And so how does someone start to, really say, okay, well, I feel like my metabolism is slowing down. I'm doing all the things to try to lose weight. I'm dealing with all these chronic issues. Like, how do we start to then help these people get through?
Yeah. So I like to divide it into, there's really three conversations here, 3 levels of like, if people's metabolic rate. And what I want listeners to get out of this more than anything else. And I think this is important because they're usually listening to other podcasts, or they're on social media, they're reading bodybuilding.com, or they're doing whatever. 80% of people still get most of their health advice from like Google, right? And what they're hearing is, hey, this answer to your problem is eat less, move more, right? And that is true if you are someone who meets the environment of the people that are being researched. For example, what I mean by this, people that are being researched today are not your clients, Jen, okay, or your followers. They are people that are overfed and understressed. Okay. The people that usually listen to this podcast, I'm sure, or are constantly listening to diet advice or constantly trying to new diets, and they're looking at that research for advice, they would be sorely mistaken, because their body has adapted. And you guys, PT, you'll know about adaptation and how your body adapts to environments. You'll know that these types of people, the other 40 to 50% of the population that isn't being studied, that isn't in the research, is women that are underfed and overstressed. Okay. And your body will acclimate to the environment that you're under, right? And then start having some of the same symptoms. It's like a bell curve, If I undereat and overstress too long, I'll start getting some of the same symptoms as someone who's understressed, meaning underactive, and overfed. I'll start slowly gaining weight. I'm getting swollen. I'm getting hormonal dysregulation. I'm getting emotional mood swings. I'm getting rashes and hiving. I'm getting maldigestion. They're saying I have hypothyroidism. I'm getting random hair shedding. I'm getting my metabolism seems to be slowing down more and more and more. And they're calling it age or, menopause or whatever they're calling it. And so we end up suffering outside the bell curve. No matter what side you're on, you'll start having similar symptomatology. So when we look to the research for like, what is the answer for our people, they're getting misled because those people are not in the same environment that you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find one study right now, guys, on highly stressed, overworked, underfed females because they're too effing busy to do research. Like, hey, do you guys, by the way, do you guys have time? They don't talk about this in research. I get so mad. I try to talk to some of the big names that are like very science, research heavy people and go, it's not in the data. Well, it's because it's not in the research participants. You're not even looking.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of you going to sit around and do research for $20 or $50 a day and really hamper your schedule? No, you're doing it. Excuse my language. I hope it's okay. But you're doing things. You're living life. And there's a subsection of people who have time to do those things. Those people tend to be people who have a little less going on, aren't very active, and usually overconsume. Because when you're not producing in life, when you're not creating, when you're not doing and being active, then you're a consumer. If you're not creating, you consume. So I'll consume people's opinions, CNN, McDonald's, extra calories. So there's consumers and there's creators. And a lot of the people that are creators are the people that we're talking about. And there's no research on them. So that's why they're getting missed. Like when you're reading a lot of this stuff and you got your research warriors, which I still love research. Don't get me wrong. I'm very big in it. I love being evidence-based. I'm just saying there's a big gap going on where we're being misled because the people that are most likely to buy or listen to nutritional education are not the people in the research that we're citing about why they have the problems.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope that makes more sense to why people are feeling like they're in an upside down world. It's like, I read the research. It said that I just need to eat less and move more. I'm already doing that. And it's kind of making it worse.
Right.
And so you said something earlier that is the opposite of that, is the flip side of that. And point completely taken, because I've had a lot of issues with sample sizes and sample convenience of research and how it doesn't apply to a large percentage of the population. And then we just try to take those studies and apply them to everybody, which isn't what a researcher should do. They teach you in school not to do that, but then that is what we do because it's the convenient thing. So makes sense for me then how the whole eat more, not move less, but eat more to lose weight, phrase ends up working out and ends up calculating out, because you see people
There's
on
got to be more to that.
You see people on Instagram start to try and tear that statement down. Oh, this is the stupidest thing. Eat more and lose weight. That's dumb.
Of course. So there's 3 stages that what happens in, like, if someone's listening right now and they can't lose weight, or they've noticed I'm significantly less able to lose weight today than I was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Or they're noticing a dramatic increase in their weight at the same number of calories. There's 3 stages that we have clearly identified and outlined at our university. The first one is simply what we call metabolic adaptation. And so if you want to know people ask me all the time, Vince, what's my metabolic rate? I go to a basal metabolic calculator and I put my information in, and every time whatever it puts out, I have to eat less than that. Because I can't lose weight at it. And it's like, well, I tell them, what you want to know what your basal metabolic rate is. How much have you been what have you been eating? How much for the last 3 months? Because your metabolism is what you feed it in the last 90 days. Okay. Because your body is supposed to be adaptive. Think about training at altitude. The first 2 weeks is miserable because there's less oxygen. Then what does your body do? Become efficient with oxygen so that you can perform better under those environments. Right. So the same thing here. If I am constantly putting myself under high duress, and there's something called CDR, by the way, cell danger response. Now, this is where you pair the psychology with the metabolism. if I put my body under too much duress with very low calories so that there isn't fast enough calorie production or ATP production being made to meet the demand of my immediate need, this is where stress does play a part, and adrenaline and cortisol. There's certainly a factor. Then my body is going to either slow down all the systems of the body. This is where we'll get into this in a minute. Or the other thing that it'll do is it will emotionally change your mood and make you move less. So we see that too in the data. Like some people, when they start eating less for too long, they start becoming more generally malaised and slightly depressed. And so their non-activity based movement, right, starts to slow down. And then, so those things begin to happen. Their sleep gets off too. So they're sleeping less, and that definitely impacts your metabolism. So the body will work in multiple ways. And so the average woman will try to lose weight starting from the age of 15 all the way to about, the research now says about 62. And they'll try to diet twice a year, every single year. And they'll do it through aggressive caloric restriction and in high stress engagement of some kind with lots of activity. So they won't eat and they'll be very stressed, and then they'll do a bunch of cardio. The issue with that is that usually the body doesn't lose weight very efficiently in that way. So your body composition isn't optimal, meaning you lost too much muscle in the process. And then what do we always do as human beings? We break out of prison when we're done, and we immediately go for all the carbs, all the alcohol, all the things, not to mention whatever we use to try to lose the weight. Phentermine, caffeine, Adderall, energy drinks. All of those things make our system hormonally slightly dysregulated, which is where we'll get into stage 2 of this process. I really blame modern dieting more than I do modern calorie consumption for some of the fast, rapid weight gain that we see in the United States.
Yeah.
Because the more that we diet, the faster we gain. This can be clearly seen in the data when you look at diet culture, dollars spent per capita on diet equipment, diet processes, diet plans, and also weight gain on average in America. Because it's hurting our metabolism. Every time you diet inappropriately, crash your diet, and then quickly overconsume calories without giving your body an adjustment period time, then what happens is the 3 most important really hormones, in my opinion, are leptin, ghrelin, and insulin. Okay. And they are very predicated on, and they don't adjust well quickly. They need time to adjust. So if I go to a 0 carb, low calorie, and then just blast, and I've been there too long, I'm there for 4, 6, 8, I go maybe let's say 12 weeks, and I don't, whatever. And then I quickly shift it too quickly. Okay. Without supporting my system, my fat's going to go up, but my leptin's not going to meet it. Leptin's a fat burning hormone. It's supposed to be tied to how much fat you have, meaning when I eat food and insulin is released, it'll go into my fat cells, and then my fat cells release leptin as a response. And then I start burning fat and my hunger goes down. It's a symphony though, based on very unique and quick timing. That timing starts to get off, and it's important, right? It's important. And so if I gain fat a little too fast, leptin levels, insulin levels, and ghrelin levels do not adjust accordingly. And so one time doing that isn't a big deal. But when you chronically do that, and then you start under eating more and more and more over time as a way of life to manage your stress and life and responsibilities, it starts, the disparity in your hormonal imbalance in that frame starts to get more and more off. So the second stage, so first is diet adaptation. Second problem is hormonal impairment or hormonal adaptation. So this is where you start seeing issues. This is where the GLPs come into play, which we could talk about another time, and why insulin isn't necessarily the enemy. People think it's the enemy in hyperinsulinemia, but most chronic dieters, if you ever look at their labs, their insulin fasted will be a 2 or a 3, but yet they're gaining weight and can't lose it very well. And that's because their body isn't releasing enough insulin when they eat food. It's like a form of type 1.5 diabetes, which is why semaglutide is so popular. Not just because you don't eat very much. It's because it's the most important thing is it's releasing insulin, which is really dropping your sugar and helping you release leptin, which isn't happening when you're a chronic dieter and have other functional health issues growing in you over time. Now you're not releasing the insulin leptin really fast when you eat food, which is why people kind of get stuck. They're swollen. They don't know why they can't lose weight. They're having to get more extreme with cutting their calories, and they're pushing themselves into a corner because now they're down to 1,000 or 800 or wherever they're at, or even 1,400 for a larger female. And this is unsustainable emotionally for them. So then they keep breaking out of it, and it becomes this cycle of shame and guilt when it didn't have to be. Really isn't their fault. They just did what they thought they were supposed to, and it led them into this. And then the final stage is important, everyone. This is the most important one. The thing that makes caloric deficits medicinal, okay, is something called autophagy. Are you familiar with this term?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So autophagy has more to do with your immune system than it does anything else. You have a secondary part of your immune system that are called M2 macrophages. T regulatory cells are very important females. That's why females have more of these issues. And what happens when you go into a fasted state, or you work out, or you sleep, or you don't eat for a significant period of time, or you cut your carbs or your protein down? Your second part of your immune system kicks in. It's the healing one. It's the stuff that'll heal cells, heal mitochondria, get rid of free radical oxidative stress. Do you remember, maybe Jen, back in the day, maybe you went through like your first breakup when you were young or something like that, and you got really stressed out and you didn't eat, and immediately all your inflammation off your body went away and you looked like $1 million? Mm-hmm. And then you realize that later in life, when you stress out, that it does the exact opposite, and now you swell and bloat, and like, what the hell's the difference? Why did I get such a medicinal outcome from something I'm not supposed to do when I was young, and I'm not getting the same response as I get older? It has everything to do with your immune system. And that's what the last 2.5 years of my career have been studying the immune system and its response to metabolism. It's a whole field of biology called immunometabolism. I'm sure you've never even heard of it. Nobody has. I didn't know it existed until I was trying to figure out what's going on with women, and why is everyone in menopause having weight loss issues? And if it's just calories in, calories out, explain to me type 1 diabetics that can't gain any weight. Explain to me PCOS females that can't lose weight at 200 calories. Explain to me menopause, then genius, excuse my language. But it's true, right? If you don't work with these populations and you only work with 19-year-old females or males, then you're going to think that none of this stuff is real. Well, let me tell you, someone who works with the hardest cases in the country, this stuff's very real, and it's happening to more and more people, men and women, every single day. I think it's one of the fastest growing problems in the country that we don't realize is leading to our health issues. Because if you can't burn fat, you're building oxidative stress. You're building inflammation. Remember, autophagy, if you can get into autophagy, you should be burning fat. If you can't burn fat, you're no longer getting into autophagy very much, and you're staying in a sugar burning state, just like a diabetic, just like someone who's obese. At any weight, this is happening. So the last stage is what we call severe cellular inflammation, where literally the mitochondria can only run on 2 energy. This is where it gets complicated. And I'm going to try to keep it simple. Can only run on 2 things. Like, let's think about your gas tank. Your gas tank can run on, regular gas, or let's say ethanol, right? And let's say the ethanol is really healthy for you to run on. Every year you chronically diet, hormones get off. You can't tap into the ethanol gas tank, and you get stuck with the regular gas. And you keep running on regular gas all day. That's pro-inflammatory. So when we're younger and we cut back our calories, inflammation goes away right away, because caloric deficit should be medicinal, because autophagy kicks in. Mm-hmm. But you'll notice that stops happening, because once a person their metabolism slows down, they're swollen all the time, right? You'll notice this is one of the key factors is swelling. And it's because when they drop the calories, the second part of the immune system did not kick in. They're not getting the medicinal benefits of caloric deficits. And now it's just malnourishment. So they're eating muscle, they're causing hormonal dysregulation. And they're also usually getting other health issues now. I've got gut issues. I've got an autoimmune issue. The doctor says I have hypothyroid. Like the list goes on. And it's because, like a diabetic, even though they're not, they are stuck in a sugar burning state. And I can prove it if anyone were to wear a CGM or do 2-hour postprandial glucose. I don't care about fasting. Fasting glucose misleads people. 2-hour postprandial. If anyone's having a hard time losing weight and you check your 2-hour postprandial and you do it for 2 or 3 meals in a day, you're going to see you look almost pre-diabetic. Your sugars are going to be going all over the place. And then you're going to know, oh, I have a problem internally and how my body's utilizing fuel on a cellular level and it's showing up in my blood vessels. And that's what we've discovered. And that's why I'm trying to tell as many people as possible, because this is what's happening in the background of something that's from the eyes just seems like it's defying the laws of physics, like the law of thermodynamics, but it's not. But it's not. Yeah.
So what is it like? What's the first step then? What does someone start to focus on?
Well, we never know when someone's, again, the 3 phases. I'm either just diet adapted, I'm hormonally imbalanced, or I have metabolic disease or dysfunction. Okay. Right. Those are really the 3 stages, right? So if somebody, let's say someone comes in with PCOS or the chronic dieting history in our practice at Vital Coaching, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to reverse the diet adaptation, right? So I've developed a system called the flush method where we can stimulate all the you have 11 systems of the body, okay? And they all have a little bit of metabolic rate. Okay. So like your liver is like 12%, your kidneys are like 6, your muscles 12 to 20%, depending on your body composition. Your heart's like 5 or 7. Like it has all kind of your digestion's a few percent as well. They all kind of add to what we call your basal metabolic rate. And if you're diet adapted, everybody knows that declines, right? Well, you have a metabolic actual, or what we call a BMR A, and a BMR P, or BMR potential, right? And you can check your potential if you use the right, like I think like the Harris-Benedict, like BMR calculator. You could see what I should have a metabolism that just, if I laid here and did nothing, should burn about 14 to 1600 calories, but I'm eating 12 and I'm working out an hour a day and I'm not losing weight and maybe I'm gaining weight. So that might be your BMR actual. Like right now, literally I'm at 1100 calories and that's my actual. But if I look at my potential, I should be able to eat 14 or 1500 calories. And this is what I want people to understand. The healthier metabolic rate is, the less chance of disease, because all disease is metabolic. It's very hard for you to find someone that has an amazing metabolism and has a lot of disease. You'll rarely see that.
Yeah.
Because all disease is metabolic. So if you reverse the metabolic issues, you reverse most disease. And that's what I want people to understand is like, if I can improve your metabolic rate, I've significantly reduced your risk factors for almost every kind of condition on planet Earth. And so we have a process where we're able to stimulate the things that get low. So if I've got power running to the house, and let's say there's a power shortage and only 80% of power is running to the house, okay, then my lights are going to dim. Maybe my oven works funny. It's going to run to every area in the house, okay? Same thing with your body. So my thyroid's going to run a little low. My adrenals are going to run a little low. My digestion's going to slow down. My liver's going to slow down. My kidneys are going to slow down. The amount of energy I burn during an hour activity is going to slow down. Thermogenic effect of activity. How about this? The heat released by any object. One of the first things to go when your metabolism is slowing down is your ability to heat up and burn off calories when you eat food. So maybe Jen or either one of you, maybe you noticed when you were younger, if I ate a bunch of carbs after a workout and I went to bed, I'd sweat out the bed. I still do now. I do. Okay. That's your body getting rid of some excess calories through heat. The increase in calories through heat. And that's the law of thermodynamics playing out in front of you, the thermogenic effect of food. That's the first thing that goes away. So women will always talk about being cold. and their BP will, or their blood flow will kind of slow down. They'll get slightly anemic. And there's always a B12 or iron or something going on. They're not digesting everything that they eat very well, right? And so what's happened is everything's powered down a little bit. Everything's running a little slow, right? This is why I make an argument that science-based elimination, what we call flush diets, or I mean, you can call it a detox diet. But and yes, do we want to mobilize toxins in people's bodies? Yes. If you have a slower metabolism of fat, you have a slower metabolism of everything. Metabolizing estrogen, metabolizing toxins, everything's metabolism. So everything slows down, right? So if I can speed up your thyroid, your liver, your kidneys, your motility in your gut, and I could do it within 12 days, and I flipped your diet, I've reversed it a little bit and increase your calories some, I can stimulate your body within a 12-day period and get you to increase your calories 300 or 400 and have about a 92% chance of losing weight within 12 days. So now your basal metabolic rate has a higher place to start from if we're going to go into more of a prolonged dieting system. That was one of the first diets I created because I was running into this problem everywhere, particularly with female athletes, female entrepreneurs, women in high stress work environments or high physical output environments where their body has adapted and acclimated to that environment in a very, what we call maladaptation, in a very unfavorable way. And that was one of the ways we were able to get people to start losing weight and feel good again, you know? Because when someone comes to you and they're like, I feel like crap and I can't lose weight, I need you to help me. What they want you to do is make them feel great and lose weight at the same time. And it's like, whoa, wait. Where can we start? Can we start with how you feel? And then maybe I get to the weight thing. And people don't want to wait. The psychology of success means you got to build on wins. The psychology is more important than the physiology. So if you don't give somebody a quick win in a long-term journey, you're not going to hang on to them long enough to fully fix the metabolism, which probably takes anywhere from, for mild adaptation, 3 to 6 months. For severe disease, it can take 12 to 18 months, right?
Yeah.
And so how am I going to get you all the way there? Well, I got to build on small wins and the psychology of it. And that's why I developed the flush system. So for people at home, one of the things that I highly recommend, there's 2 routes you can go. What I highly recommend is a reverse diet that is actually, believe it or not, this is going to sound a little crazy. It's more like a Daniel fast where you eat more fruits and vegetables and no protein at first because you need to do the opposite of whatever you've been doing. You're living in upside down world. You maybe been eating high protein and almost no calories, and you actually need to move to simple energy that your body can process quickly. I know that sounds a little wild. I understand, but this is how I figured out. People's bodies adapt to what they're doing. If you've been doing something for a very, very long time, you're now maladapted. You're plateaued to it, right? Just like a workout, right? So how do you reverse an adaptation? You do the opposite.
Yeah.
Right? As a simple answer I can give. And so we go to a Daniel fast. It's like eating a lot of fruits, veggies, juices, things like that. You actually bring the protein pretty low. You go to more of a Mediterranean-based diet, right? And then you can slowly feed yourself up, like 100 calories a week for 4 to 6 weeks, and you shouldn't gain any weight if you do it right. You really shouldn't. And then you'll bring your metabolism higher, and then back off the training a little bit. Whatever type of training you've been doing, I want you to reduce it to something more parasympathetic. I want you to do things that calm the nervous system down. All right. So things like walking, yoga, meditation. I know no one wants to hear this. I'm sorry. If I could do it any other way, I would. Okay. I love clanging weights and getting insane and working out all the time too. But there's a time for that. And there's a time to cycle off of that because everything needs a cycle, what we call, our variations. So workout variations, diet variations. You need to have seasons, right? Our bodies are adapted to seasons. So there's a season I'm a back off, maybe training are doing HIIT cardio and high intensity training or heavy hypertrophy training, I'm going to move to something more functional, maybe to something kettle, Pilates, walking. You can walk forever and not hurt your metabolism. You want to walk an hour and a half a day, do it. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't stress the body out and you're not going to gain weight doing that. Gives your body a break. And then now switch your macros around, try to eat more, again, Mediterranean. Bring up, believe it or not, don't be afraid of fruits, even fruit juices. I know it sounds counterintuitive. You're not going to do this forever, right? We have simple guides for this. We give at Vital Coaching all the time, or they can take a course for like $197, or our coaches will walk them through it. Again, it's something that's available because sometimes what I'm telling people might be hard to do on their own,
right,
when they're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
But that's why solving this a lot of times, and truly solving it at a high success rate requires some of that. Right.
And I know, I mean, again, the example you gave is amazing, but like you said, people can be at any stage of this maladaptation that you explained earlier, and it's going to be a little bit more specific to where they're at. And that's why, getting in with coaching with you, checking out the Flush Method, which I know you just recently launched a new book. So congrats on that.
Thank you very much.
Or the Flush program. Where can people go to check that all out?
So we do on our website right now, we have an advanced assessment that anybody can do for free. And it'll tell them the level of severity they're at so that they can start in the right place, because it's all about speaking to people where they're at, which can be hard to do in this space. It would be like me talking about venture capital to someone who's just starting out as an entrepreneur. Like, they don't need to hear that. Right? What they need to hear is get up one more day, make 10 more calls, and don't give up. Right?
Yeah.
They don't need to hear this other stuff. Right?
Right.
And that's hard on, Instagram, social media. You've got people talking to people at certain stages of a process. And most people are just trying to figure out where to begin, let alone whatever you're talking about. And so our assessments, you can fill them out for free and it'll tell you the level of severity. And then you can meet with one of my experts that are always standing by. We have a team of like over 100 people. They're friggin' amazing. They've all, had amazing results with the process, and now they want to change other people's lives. And they'll consult with you and say, yeah, you know what? You can take one of our courses with one coaching session. You probably just have some diet adaptation. Oh, Mrs. Jones, it looks like you also have some hormonal adaptation. So why don't you do our Flush course and then meet with our endocrinology team, and they can help you with the hormone side. Or it's like, hey, Mrs. Jones, it looks like you're lighting up across the board. This is probably metabolic disease. We need to do more advanced labs. And all of that's included in our coaching. We have our own medical health network. We don't need the rest of the world. We always tell people when they come in, unless you need your doctor, you can wave goodbye. We have the whole system here. So it's all very convenient, can be done online virtually from your home. And you get everything you need. We have our own medical teams, coaches, and everything.
Amazing. Well, we're going to have that all linked up so that people can find exactly what they need to get the help that they want, because I know that this is a huge issue for so many people. And I'm already thinking of so many people in my head who could benefit.
By the way, we've solved it to the point where we're the only company that does this in the world. If somebody's listening and you're struggling, I don't want you to be afraid anymore that this is just another guy getting on here who maybe kind of knows what he's talking about, has an idea, and tries to sell it like it's the answer. So we're the first company that guarantees outcomes. If you come and you trust my program, you trust me, and you're willing to follow a process generally consistently, then the result should not be on you anymore. It should be on us. And so we have a program guarantee. We don't sell programs, we sell outcomes. So if you've been struggling this 3 to 5 to 7 years, that's all we do. Guess what? Light work for us. We guarantee the outcome, or we'll work with you for free till we do. That's how we work at our program. We're not about more broken promises, maybes, hang on longer, it'll happen. No, the buck stops with us because we know what people are going through out there, falling through the cracks of the medical system. And we refuse to be part of the problem.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest pain point that your company was born out of, was the frustration of people falling through 5, 10 different providers and never having a solution. So I appreciate the work that you do, the company that you've built. I hope that some people out there hear this and go and get started on your site. Like we said, we'll have all that information.
They're more than welcome to reach out on my
notes.
Instagram, Vince_Pitstick. It's an Australian deodorant, even though it's a German last name. No, it was a growth opportunity as a kid. Hit and stick. You can't mess that up. But if you reach out on my Instagram, me and my team experts are on there as well. We can talk to you a little bit on there. They're willing to spend the time. They know what it's like. They'll bring you in for a consult. You'll feel very welcome. And like I said, you trust us. It's a guarantee. It's done already. You just don't know it, and that's what we're all about.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Vince. I know there's so much more we could have dove into, and that's where your Instagram, I think you guys go explore, because he's got so much incredible information, and the way you break it down is great. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time and chatting with us.
All right. Awesome.